You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Listening to the Bells of Liberty podcast, where freedom rings and the sassiness stings. Stay tuned for a little bit of sassy freedom. Hello, and you're listening to the Bells of Liberty on Lanterns Radio Network. I'm Jana, joined by Sammy and Courtney.
Hey.
Hello.
For tonight's episode, we've got an interesting mix of things to talk about, and we hope you agree. For instance, have you ever been on the road, driving home from work or to the store, and you just know the idiot in front of you, weaving and overcorrecting all over the road, is on their phone? Have you ever wondered where the hell the police are in order to pull said idiot over and lay the law down on them for risking people's lives to send their BFF Jill a text? Well, there may be legislation on the horizon that allows police to check your phone in the event of an accident and respond accordingly to whatever they find. Also, new studies are showing a gene mutation that could affect as much as half the population that's linked to a variety of diseases and might lead to some answers on the treatment front for many. We finally wrapped up Article 1 in last week's Constitutorial, so tonight we'll be starting Article 2, Sections 1 and 2, as we move right along. And finally, a brand spanking new round of Ring the Bell, where we discuss poll results from our last podcast party and talk about our latest finds. So, IDK, my BFF Courtney, what's the latest on texting and driving?
Did you just speak English? Because I don't know.
Have you guys never seen when texting was the first?
T-Mobile.
Right. When texting was first a thing, that was like one of the most popular commercials because they were starting the texting lingo and they were trying to figure out why they had like 1 million text messages on their bill. And I think it was like the first round of free texting. Something like that, and their like 12-year-old kid was like just texting away, and they're like, "Well, gee, I wonder why our bill is so much." And they're like, "Who are you texting?" And she's like, "IDK, my BFF Jill."
Well, and then they had another one with like old ladies, and the grandma's like, "IDK, my BFF Rose."
Right.
All I know is I had a coworker who actually talked like that, and I like looked him dead in the eye, and I said, "Use your big boy words right now." And I turned around and walked off.
Who talks like that? So
I think I harassed said co-host too. I've actually intimidated several people into talking like real humans before when they've used that. Like, yeah. Anyway.
LOL.
So, oh my, stop. Anywho, so let's just move into my topic here because it's awesome. So actually, this story I'm pretty conflicted about because I was telling Sammy earlier that the part of me that says people are idiots and I want to control everybody, I love this bill that they're trying to get passed. But the other part that says, you know, like Braveheart, freedom, I don't like this bill. So what they're trying to get to happen, and this is happening in New York right now, it's called let me consult my notes here. It's called the Under the Influence of Electronics Act, and it is Senate Bill 5289. It's called Driving Under the Influence of Electronics Act, and this is New York right now, forbids the use of handheld device and video watching while moving or briefly stopped. And it would allow for, and this is quote, and I had to laugh at this, minimum use of finger to operate the nav app, if you had that on your phone. So like navigational devices or apps on your phone that that is allowed. And a little funny thing here they kind of put in with the bill, which makes total sense. You can't pull someone over for eating or grooming or anything. Just eating and grooming in the car. Come on. You notice, you look in the rearview mirror and you see you have some nose hairs, so you need to trim them right then. Just wait a couple minutes, please. But now they're including this in the Senate Bill 5289 as something that you can get in trouble for. It's an added offense. You can't get pulled over.
So they're saying that they're adding on eating? Is that what you said?
Right. So as I understand it, you can get pulled over for operating a cell phone, while driving. But you cannot get pulled over for eating or grooming. But if you get pulled over, it's like a secondary offense. So you get pulled over for like talking on the phone and taking care of your nose hairs at the same time, which I want to know where your hands are. Like what's operating the vehicle at that point? Like, because I'm pretty sure you can't use one knee to operate your vehicle at that point. Or maybe can. I don't know. I'm just not that talented. Anyway, but they also introduced this thing they're calling the textilizer. I think I'm saying this right. And it's basically like a breathalyzer for your phone. It checks to see if your phone has been naughty while you are driving, if there has been an accident. And so it's a device that the police can use to check and see if you have used your phone to text or Instagram or Facebook, Twitter, all those things in the event of an accident. It can't read the messages. It just shows that like the phone has been used. So I'm not conflicted on this. I don't like it just for the simple fact that my phone, like there's no cell phone signal out here. So my phone could take up to 10 minutes to send a text that I wrote while I was in my house, but it might have finally sent after I've left the house. And then the other point is that how are they going to judge how long you've been on the road to say that you were texting and driving?
And
like,
also,
how
how do they differentiate that maybe you got notifications while you were driving, but you didn't necessarily read them, but your phone is still going to register as having received text or what have you? I just feel like there's a lot of variables that they're not going to be able to really nail down. That's going to lead to people potentially being charged with something that they shouldn't be because they didn't actually do anything wrong, but they happen to get into an accident, and that's going to be the blame for it. And they might get charged more heavily because of it.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, now that we're talking about this aspect of it, I think I remember like watching Red Eye a long time ago, where they were saying that someone was trying to introduce legislation that said if you know that the person you're texting is driving and you text them, you can be charged with a crime.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And
ridiculous.
The problem that I have with this is not that I don't want to make the roads safer, because like I was looking at the statistics here, and let's see, I think 2015 there were over 3,000, almost 3,500 traffic deaths related to electronics, like, in the car. So it's not that, I don't want people to die because, and like I said before, if I die because someone is texting on the phone, I want whoever buries me, takes care of all this stuff, to put the name of the person who killed me on my tombstone and why I died. I died because so-and-so was texting their BFF. IDK, right?
This is the same issue I have with legalizing marijuana. It's because marijuana stays in your system for up to 30 days. So you could have a bunch of built up marijuana in your system that, if they tested a hair follicle or a fat cell or something, it can stay in your system. So you could be pulled over and you could maybe fail, the stupid human tricks. And then be subjected to some kind of blood test to test if it's in your system or not. And if it is, that doesn't necessarily mean you're still impaired from it. So there's no way for them to quantify that aspect of it. They say, well, people who smoke weed, they just want to sit in their basement. Well, they don't always just sit in their basement.
No,
some people are stupid enough to go out and drive. And so my issue has always been, how do you quantify it in a field test? because you can't. It's not like a breathalyzer where you blow into the thing and, it's an instant read type thing. So
Yeah.
I feel like I said, with my phone, it doesn't always send right then because, everything out here, like signal and stuff, is terrible. So I can realistically start texting someone right now and it doesn't send until next Tuesday. So it's
and
frustrating.
something I do too is my oldest son sits in the passenger seat now, and very frequently, because I'm a chaotic person, like I put things off to the last minute, so I've got to run and do this, and so I will hand him my phone. I'll unlock my phone and I'll hand it to him, and I'll just say, hey, I need you to text Papa about this for me real fast, and he'll do that, or he'll call. And so it's like, how do you, anybody could say then, if they have a passenger, well, I had so and so do it. So it leaves, I understand the intent, and I like the intent is to help people not die, because we need to know if there's going to be ice cream on the menu tonight all of a sudden. That's fine, but the application of it just leaves too much vague possibilities for abuse of power, is what it turns out to be. And I just that's really frustrating. The other thing that frustrates me a lot about this is, why do we need these laws? Does it not make sense? How selfish are you to think, if I take my eyes off the road and I'm hurtling down the road at 70 miles an hour, I actually showed my oldest son, because we talk a lot about driving, because we have some idiot drivers on the island all the time. We get lots of tourists. Yay, me. But I was showing him the other day how easy it is to, how very little I have to let go of the wheel and how much I will veer off the road. It does not take a lot. And so I just don't know how selfish you can be and think this is okay.
But we have laws against murder, and people still murder.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's necessarily because it isn't obvious that this is a stupid thing to do. And I do have technically a personal anecdote for this, because I do know a family that was just recently very deeply affected by this action or behavior of people being stupid behind the wheel and texting while they're driving. That was a family of, I believe, 5, and they lost all but 2 of their daughters in a car crash because a teenage boy was texting while he was driving and hit them. So, and one of them was, the youngest daughter is 3 or 4. She survived with minor injuries. Mom survived with minor injuries. One of the other daughters who survived is not ever going to be the same because she's had to have a lot of surgeries and therapies. And then their other daughters didn't make it out of the crash. So I can understand why. And the mom is a very, very big proponent of this texting and driving law. They've been on the news several times pushing it. Branstad, our governor here in Iowa, has just recently actually signed legislation that says you can be pulled over for texting and potentially arrested for doing it. I don't think they have the same legislation to check your phone or anything, but if they know that you were texting while you were driving, you can be charged with that. So I can understand why people are reacting the way they do, but like I said, it is a common sense thing. Duh, obviously. I mean, I think I've heard that it's, you can go 2 or 3 football fields in distance just looking down at your phone for a couple of seconds while you're on the highway. So, I mean, I think people don't realize until it's too late that this really is a dangerous thing to do, and they think, well, it's never going to happen to me. My reaction time is fine. Obviously not. I know people who've died because of this. So I think it's not that it isn't common sense. It's just people need to be responsible for themselves, and they're not.
Yeah. Well, and car companies are starting to install things that you're able to disable your kid's phone while they're behind the wheel. You're able to do these things. So I think the private sector, there's enough compassion out there for these stories that the private sector could take care of it. But when it's the government, it's too broad because they don't always apply it equally or justly. So there's just too many moving parts for it to be a concrete one and done type situation. Unfortunately, we're running into a break. On the other side of this, we're going to be talking about a gene that sounds kind of like a swear word. Welcome back to the Bells of Liberty on Lanterns Radio Network. My topic this week is one that I find personally fascinating, but I feel like I need to start with the disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. You shouldn't take any of my advice without talking to your doctor. What else can I cover in this disclaimer? I don't know.
None of these things have been tested on cats.
That's true. Well, actually, I don't know if that's true or not, but I hope it's true.
Just thinking of a certain commercial we all know and love.
I liked at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy when they were like, no raccoons or trees were harmed in the making of this, but raccoon handlers and tree handlers were all injured or something.
Yes, that was funny.
But anyway, so my topic this week has to do with health. I'm pretty much a walking pre-existing condition. And so I follow a lot of health blogs and accounts on Instagram and stuff. And this study kept coming up on my radar. So it is called the methylene tetrahydrate folate reductase gene. Basically, I did it. I know. It produces an enzyme that breaks down homocysteine in the blood, which basically it's an amino. Okay, now I can't talk. It's an amino acid, which is the building block for proteins in your system. So this particular gene is found on the first chromosome, and they are finding that up to 50% of the population has this mutation. So it's a pretty big deal for a couple different populations. So first would be people who have a family history of congestive heart failure, because one of the things about the homocysteine, it can build up in your blood and start clogging your arteries. So they think that might be one of the causes of congestive heart failure, which is new. And then the other one is women who are, quote, of childbearing age, which just makes me feel weird, especially since The Handmaid's Tale is so hot right now. But basically, what it does is it inhibits the body's ability to break down folate, folic acid, which is a synthetic form of folate. And the U.S. government has mandated that all like bread, cereals, those types of products, grain products, need to be fortified with folic acid. Yeah. Because apparently the population has been typically lower on this end. And it also can break down, keep you from breaking down B12 and B6 vitamins. So,
wow.
Right. So it's the most studied, widely accepted study has to do with mental health. So they think that this enzyme has to do with making your neural tubes. So they have linked it to spina bifida. They are doing studies right now having to do with ADHD and autism, but they also are linking it to depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, as well as migraines, MS, multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia. So it's got a wide range of things that it could be, just because of the very fact that it is an amino acid, which means it's a building block for how your body handles protein. And we all need protein to function. So it could potentially be huge.
Well, I was just going to say real fast that this is actually really interesting too, because of a gene mutation. You've heard of the CRISPR, like, I don't know if it's the effect, whatever, where they can actually go in and take out parts of your DNA and like fix it. So this is really interesting. Like, if they're identifying this gene that's causing this much chaos in people's lives, I mean, you could potentially go in and like reprogram your DNA to not have these mutations and like get rid of IBS and, you know, fibromyalgia and schizophrenia.
Right. So before you go to that link, though, there are so the biggest, quickest, I don't want to say quickest, but one of the first things you can try before you go and get genetic testing, because everyone knows how I feel about genetic testing, is you can start taking a different form of folate. So it's called methylfolate, and it just negates the whole process of the breaking it down. So it's already in your blood and already able to help take out some of the homocysteine in your system. So that's one thing you can be aware of, especially women, if you're planning on getting pregnant or you're within your first 3 months. They recommend switching. Instead of taking a folic acid prenatal vitamin, they suggest taking folate, which is the natural occurring substance, and obviously folic acid is synthetic. So you can do that. They also say, you know, eating more folate-rich foods, so leafy greens, broccoli, lentils, those types of foods are good.
But let's be clear, they're good for you, but they are not good. I just want to make that distinction.
Some people think they're good.
Those are not normal people.
Are split peas, because like lentils in the legume family, right? If I remember correctly.
Don't ask me about food because I can't.
Well, I was going to say split pea soup if it's in the legume and it's the same thing, because that would be delicioso, because you can put bacon in that.
Well, oh my gosh. Going downhill. But so this study has been around. It's actually one of the most studied genetic mutations, but there's a debate between natural medicine type people and Western medicine doctors. So people who are on the Western side of medicine, they say, oh, it's a placebo effect. You guys just want to blame everything on this mutation. And then there are people who have gone to Western medicine and haven't found any answers and started doing the more natural route of taking the folate, the methylfolate and the methyl B12, and say they've had results that they've not had taking, prescription medication. So there's a debate. Like I said before we started this conversation, I'm not a doctor. I can't make decisions for you. I can tell you, I have started taking the methylfolate, and since I have started taking it, I've had to take my nerve pain medication less. Well, so for me, I mean, that's why I want to talk about this, just because it's something, there are like people with nerve pain, it's not fully understood. And so a lot of times you're going into the doctor and they're going to tell you they can treat your symptoms, but they can't tell you the root cause of it.
That's annoying.
And, I have friends who have chronic pain, my, family members who have fibromyalgia. So it's really frustrating. And even my neurologist has told me, they used to send people away for fibromyalgia saying that it was made up, it was psychosomatic. Yes. And now they're starting to understand fibromyalgia and that it's real pain. People are really suffering from it. So, I'm someone who I like to go between natural medicine and Western medicine. I find that the natural path doctor that I've had tends to care more about me as a person, as a human being who's not feeling good. And my Western medicine doctors see me as a problem that they want to solve. And so they're not necessarily the most nice people to me. So I just,
help it.
Yeah. I mean, I love the mix of it. And I know Jana, your dog has had issues and now he's getting acupuncture, which is something that people don't necessarily think is a accepted Western modality, but it's also, people are starting to see the merits of it, and it's starting to be even covered under insurance policies.
Yeah, I wish this was covered under insurance policies. That would make my life a lot easier. But yeah, I can speak to that helping. So my own father was like, well, I'm not sure if this is still quackery or not, until Hank started walking better. And then I'm like, maybe not so quackery after all.
Yeah.
Well, right. And I mean, my husband has a back injury, and technically the military does not cover acupuncture. So they call it dry needle therapy.
That just sounds disturbing.
Exactly. So, people, I know some people who are in the medical field who are like, naturopaths aren't doctors, but I also know people who are like, chiropractors aren't real doctors. So, I mean, there's always a debate on natural medicine, pharmaceutical treatment versus natural treatment. But I find all of this stuff really fascinating. I love reading about medical issues. When I was in high school, my friends would come to me before they went to the doctor and just say, hey, what do you think this is? And I take a guess, and then they'd go to the doctor and tell me if I was right or not. So basically, this is my spiel of saying, if you have a weird medical condition you would like someone to think about, you can tweet me at Sammy Susie on Twitter. I just like medical science a lot, and I feel like it's not something that's really talked about on a broad spectrum, just because everyone is so unique and so different. But this MTHFR, which is not an acronym for a swear word, it's something, people are really taking a look at if it's the root cause. It just came up this week, a new study about polycystic ovarian syndrome, and people thinking it's linked to that. So it's been around for about 3 or 4 years, that it's been on my radar. Gosh, I can't talk. But not most people don't know, and up to 50% of the population could have this mutation potentially. And our government says, we have to fortify our food with folic acid, which is not helping those people with the gene mutation. So the people who are on the quote unquote fad diet of going gluten-free, they may not have an issue with gluten, but they may have an issue with the folic acid not breaking down in their system in their bread they're eating. So that's all I got for you guys. I don't know if that was boring for anyone, but I thought it was exciting. So now you know my life.
Just proving once again that the government really shouldn't meddle in like 95% of the things that it meddles in. Just saying.
Truth.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we're at time right now, so we're going to head into a break, and we're going to do our constitutorial next. Stay with us.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network, We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz. For great radio, get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Welcome back to the Bells of Liberty on Lanterns Radio Network. This week, our constitutorial is moving on to Article 2, Sections 1 and 2. And to tell us about it, Gina is going to break it down for us.
Okay, so Article 2 is pretty much just the basics of expectations of the president, his term length, and so on and so forth, and how he and the vice president are elected. So it's pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot about it that's too confusing. And it's kind of, I would assume, what people would know if you asked them about, like, what do you know about the president and when he's elected and so on and so forth. And again, I say he because we've had male presidents this whole time and we currently have a male president. I'm not saying a woman cannot be president. Unless it's Hillary, in which case, no, she cannot be president.
Ever.
They're here.
So, and this scary side note, I have been seeing rumblings on Twitter that she's planning on running again.
No.
Right?
Isn't she
Yeah, I've
too
been
old?
seeing the little rumors here and there, and no, just no.
She's not going to give up until it's her turn, guys. It's her turn. So anyway, with that fun little side note, so essentially Section 1 of Article 2 says, the executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and together with the Vice President chosen for the same term, be elected. And then it breaks it down into how they're elected. So each state appointing a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled to Congress. But no senator, representative, or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. Well, I'll open that up. Sammy, do you know what that means? Because I know that each state has a certain number of representatives and senators. But if they mean by elector, I'm assuming that's in congruence with the Electoral College, right? Because each senator or representative represents so many votes for that state, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm not a complete moron when I'm reading this. So the electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for two persons of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves, and they shall make a list of all the persons voted for and of the number of votes for each. And they will sign and certify and transmit to the seat of the government. And these are all things that are like capitalized, so I'm sure that means they're very important. Of the United States directed to the President of the Senate. So it's kind of just the basics of how the President and the Vice President are elected and for how long. The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which they shall give their votes, and which day shall be the same throughout the United States. So when we vote on our president, it's always November 8th, correct? I know it's in November.
Correct.
I think technically it's supposed to be the second or third
The
Tuesday.
second Tuesday after the first Monday.
Right, which usually always falls on November 8th. So that's when we always vote. That's what we all did when we voted for whoever we voted for this election. No judgments here if you voted for Trump, even though you suck. Did I say that out loud?
No judgments.
Yeah.
There's a lot of judgments.
There's going to be a lot of judgments.
Anything.
The Cheeto in chief. Anyway, so it's always November 8th. That's what we've determined. The rules for becoming president is that no person except a natural-born citizen or citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to the office of president. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained to the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States. So for everyone who threw a fit about Obama and his birth certificate, here's your rules. Pretty sure he wouldn't have been elected if he didn't meet those criteria.
Well, and the sticking point people had was natural born citizen. Some people define that as both parents born here. Some people define that as one parent born here. Some people don't seem to know the difference between a natural born citizen and a naturalized citizen. So that was the legal jargon. That was the sticking point. And also, people said that there was some sort of loophole because it said at the time of the adoption of this Constitution, basically they were just saying, obviously we're just forming this nation. So we're all technically citizens, but even though we weren't born here. Right. But it's not saying that an immigrant who was not born here can run for president.
Right. Well, and I mean, that was a big deal with Obama. They tried to make it a big deal with Ted Cruz because he was born in Canada.
They tried to make it a big deal with Mitt Romney. His dad, right. I mean, he was born in were his parents on a mission in Mexico? They were on a mission somewhere, I think.
Yeah. Well, and John McCain was born in Panama, wasn't he?
Yes.
So that came up too. No, I think
Right.
I think you were right about Mitt Romney, but I know John McCain was born in Panama, so that was something that came up was because he was a military brat. So it was.
Well, it's not just because Obama was black that people were raising the issue. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't necessarily. Some people could totally be racist jerks, but it's been an issue with Romney, McCain, Ted Cruz.
Right.
So
yeah,
there's a pattern.
Right. I think it's pretty much it's like, oh, you weren't born on this soil, so therefore you're not an American. Well, that's not necessarily the case because even if they weren't running for president, we would still consider them an American citizen because they were born to an American parent. So shut up. Anyway. The case of the removal of the president from the office of president includes, through his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of said office. The same shall be. These are a lot of fancy words, guys. I'm sorry. English is not my first language tonight, so I'm going to be having some issues. But shall devolve on the vice president, and the Congress may, by law, provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the president and vice president, declaring what officer shall then act as president, and such officer shall act accordingly until the disability be removed or a president shall be elected. So this is order of succession, essentially. So if the president is assassinated, impeached, or removed from office for whatever reason, or is ill or unable to act as president, essentially the next person in line would be the vice president. And if the same thing has happened to him, then that moves on to the next. There's a whole list on Wikipedia because that's where people go for information, if you're looking for education, but it moves down.
Anna and I have gone to this list before.
Yes.
To see, and we have to get to number 17 in line to get to someone we like.
Yeah, I think it was even further than that because we're like, well, what happens if who's next in line if so and so and so and so? Because I think this is right around the time they said Designated Survivor was coming out, and it's like Congress had gotten blown up and everybody who would have been in succession was killed. So then it got down to Kiefer Sutherland's character. So we're like, well, what would happen if that happened to us? And we're like, oh my God, there's not a single person on this list we'd be okay with. So it was hard. And I guess it keeps going down. Section 2 just kind of explains that the president is commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. That he is the commander-in-chief. He shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided he has 2/3 of the senators present concur. He can nominate with advice and consent of the Senate and appoint ambassadors. We've been seeing that with Trump recently, with who he's been assigning to different countries as their ambassadors. My own governor here in Iowa is supposedly going to be the next ambassador to China because he's got some previous relationships with them. So that is the president's job. Judges to the Supreme Court, we saw that with Neil Gorsuch. And other officers of the United Congress be appointed by the president, of course, with support from Congress. And he has the power to fill up vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate. Quick fact is this also includes the oath of office in Section 1. Before he enters on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear. No, he does not say that he is up to no good. That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So pretty straightforward, lots of big words in this section of the Constitution, but pretty much just kind of lays out some of the duties that the president has and how he and the vice president are elected.
Well, thank you for that information. Unfortunately, we're running into a break because we got to go ring the bell next. Welcome back to the Bells of Liberty. It is time to ring the bell. So last week we had some pretty fun topics, and our poll results are in. Jana's topic was about Dove making shaped Dove bottles, body wash bottles. And so we asked you what shape your bottle would come in. 13% of you said a snowman. 38% said a whale. But the majority of you said you'd be a potato. I think that was a potato. I just guessed from the emoji. I said snowman because I could just melt and be skinny in the summer. So that was the correct answer, obviously. Then
I don't know what I voted.
Well, it was a whole week ago. Who could expect you to remember?
I can't remember yesterday, so...
Not to mention the poll shows the little check mark next to the thing you picked if you go back and look at it, but it's fine. Again, who would expect you to do that?
So my topic was about some lady getting all her money stolen from a Match.com scam. It was the two winners were split. So losing was you'd be asking someone for money, and 40-40 it was split of you guys were saying you'd only send money if you were a Nigerian prince, which is understandable. And the other said you don't buy love, which a puppy costs money and that's love. And then the Chris Pratt, Courtney's topic, Chris Pratt apologizing. 100% of you agreed that he should not have had to apologize. It was ridiculous. And also, consequently, 100% of you also agreed that he's the best human being who's ever walked the face of the earth. Just saying that was a special poll that we did.
With all the same answers, because...
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were forced to make the correct choice.
Wasn't a setup at all.
Not surprising, though. It's like Obamacare. Everyone's getting insurance. So this week we have new topics. Jane is going to start us off.
Okay. Well, when I saw this topic, I shared it. When I say topic, I mean article, because English. Anyway, when I saw this article, I shared it with my friends, and I said, if I'm ever this pathetic, please kick my ass. Because apparently one of the latest trends is people marrying themselves in a relationship called sologamy, which I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it because it's not actually a word.
Who cares? It's not an actual thing. I'll pronounce it however I want.
It could be sologamy, might be sologamy. I don't really know. I don't really care. But essentially what it means is if you don't want to be a spinster and you just want to shut people up because they keep commenting, oh, when are you going to get married. When are you going to have a baby? Blah, blah, blah. You can go ahead and have yourself a little wedding, vows and all, with yourself. Because who better to marry you than you? I mean, really, it just kind of... The vows just write
I
themselves.
want to know what those vows would look like.
I mean,
like, I do solemnly swear to love and protect me. And what would the divorce look like?
Me, myself, and I. Exactly. And that'll be the next thing, is divorcing yourself.
Well, yeah.
But, yeah, pretty much the woman that they talked about in this article was a 37-year-old bride. Who essentially did everything you would for a wedding. Got the wedding dress, got the bouquets, did everything. Got the pictures taken, walked down the aisle, had an efficient do the marriage. But mostly, she just said she did it because she grew tired of people asking why she was still single. So in front of her family and friends, she's just married herself because that'll make your family stop talking.
I feel like that's the plot of a Lifetime original movie.
That'll be the next one on the Hallmark Channel.
Oh my god!
Or like an A&E, a TV show. My Salon
It's not
life.
You, it's me.
Oh my gosh!
It's not you, it's me.
Oh my.
Okay.
We're gonna have to take a poll on this one, guys, for the best name. But speaking of new trends, a company out of Chicago called Aced started a Kickstarter for something you guys might have called. It's called the Romp Him, and it's a romper for men. And I mean, I'm not the most stylish person. Like, I love shirts that have the little tail at the end because they cover your booty a little bit. So I'm not giving anyone style advice. But this is just, if I knew any self-respecting man who wore this, they would lose my respect, which is more important than self-respect, apparently, to them. They wanted to raise $10,000 in 30 days. They have 24 days left in the Kickstarter, and they're already at $320,333 as of this moment. So this is just, it exploded on Twitter. Even Ted Cruz made a joke about it. So that's how you know. And like he did it right off the backboard of Ben Sass's amazing tweet about sitting in his gym clothes on the wall with Chuck Schumer and Tom Cotton. It was an amazing picture. If you haven't seen it, I will retweet it out for you guys. But it's a new level of stupid, I thought, until Courtney's topic. Courtney?
Okay, so of all the foods that you would think that would not be controversial in, society, I would think the avocado would be safe from it. It's just kind of plain looking, but no, it's in the middle of everything right now. Apparently, millennials need to stop making avocado toast so they can save up for houses, which I thought was pretty funny because I really want to know how many avocados are you eating, like, per meal. Like, that's not even like a per day sort of a thing.
I can't imagine it's very many because as Sammy and I have discussed on many occasions, neither one of us knows how to pick a ripe one. So how many could you possibly be buying?
Which leads me to the next part of this. This is a multi-layered controversy. Like, avocado just like got in the middle of it, okay? So the other thing, I'm trying really hard not to laugh because I don't want to seem completely heartless, but doctors are seeing avocado-related injuries on the rise because when they're trying to get the seed out, they chop the seed with the knife thing, and they're like slicing their tendons instead.
With the knife thing? With the knife thing?
Yes. Okay, so I have to say that's how I get the seed out of the avocado, but I am also not an idiot. I think these people are all drunk when they're doing this. And speaking of drunk and drinks, now the next thing that I just saw that came out was making a latte and pouring it into the avocado and drinking it. I want off this planet. This is ridiculous. I want the avocados though, please, because I eat them the regular way.
You know what? Avocados have to be expensive, though, because when you go to Chipotle, they charge you extra for guac. So they have to be.
I have sources.
Like I told you guys, like there's this thing where they say you can use an avocado instead of milk to make a milkshake, and it's still creamy and delicious if you put some cocoa powder in there. I haven't tried it because I don't know how to pick a ripe one. Like, it's just, is this ripe or rotten? I don't know. It's like they even have stickers on them, and they're like, oh, pick me, I'm ripe if I'm this color. And I'm like, well, that's debatable. What if I'm colorblind?
Well, now you're just using excuses. I don't think you really want to buy an avocado.
I don't enjoy, I know people who can just eat avocado plain. I don't enjoy it. I mean, I'll eat some guac all day.
But entire avocado.
Gross.
I sliced it open, and then I like cut little grooves in it, and I put tamari sauce in it. It's so good.
Well, then you don't eat it plain.
Well, okay, but I would.
Gross.
Ish. It's plain-ish. It's 2 ingredients. It's avocado and tamari sauce. So anyway, but there we go. Avocados. Like, so basically we've learned that if you want to buy a house, stop eating avocado toast. If you should probably stop eating avocados if you're slicing your tendons up while you're preparing them. And coffee belongs in a cup and not an avocado.
Well, that's like such a small amount of coffee too.
Right? Yeah, it's wrong on several levels.
So everything is just expensive relating to avocados.
How can we make this $5 shot of espresso more expensive? I know. I'll serve it in an avocado. That'll be $50, please.
We'll do some cute latte art. Oh my goodness.
Flat white art, right? I don't know. I tried to be smart, but it came out as not smart, which is not uncommon.
You should maybe not play with knife things in your current state. You guys, we have to wrap it up. We are always on Twitter doing a podcast party when the show drops. Jana, where else can they find us?
Well, like Sammy said, if you don't already know and join us regularly, our latest show drops on Saturdays at 6 p.m. Eastern on Lanterns Radio Network via Spreaker. When the show starts, Sammy and Courtney and I jump on the Twitters for our weekly podcast party and tweet about the show with anyone who joins in. It can be a lot of fun. We talk about the topics we discussed during the show, post new polls for people to participate in for Ring the Bell, and it gives you all yet another chance to see how weird we are. If that interests you, you can find us at Bells of Liberty on Twitter. Stop in and say hello. If you can't make it to the party, you can also find us on Facebook at The Bells of Liberty, where we post our show links, articles, and other things we find amusing for everyone's enjoyment. And finally, if you've missed any of our previous shows or just want to go back and listen to the sultry sound of our voices, we can be found on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play Music. So now you have no excuse. You can't say you didn't know because I just told you everything. So that's all we have for tonight. Thank you so much for sharing an hour of your day with us, and we'll see you next week.
See ya!
Au revoir!
Thanks for listening to the Bells of Liberty podcast. Want to listen to more sassy content? All shows are available free on demand on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play Music. Have something to say? You can find us on Twitter at Bells of Liberty, and also on Facebook, www.facebook.com/The Bells of Liberty. And as always, keep calm and ring on.